and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Good evening. It's another Monday here in Nevis, and of course every Monday night it's Your Voice with the NRP, a program sponsored by Nevis's oldest and most transformative party. We come here every Monday night with the leadership of the NRP to discuss issues of importance to you, the citizen. And tonight, as usual, we're here. It's Monday, May 9th, and oh my, the year is running along, heading to the midway mark. Meantime, on Nevis, everything has ground to a halt, thanks to the CCM. At the federal level, we're at the precipice of a constitutional crisis. Where do we go from here? Very, very important issues we have to discuss tonight. And of course, our guest this evening, Mr. Rohan Az, the representative for the contestant for Constituency number 3, Gingerland. Meanwhile, over the weekend, the NRP had several activities. Of course, there was the postponed drive-through, postponed in deference to the passing of the late Premier, the Honorable Van Samri. That was held on Saturday. And of course, right across the country, there were a number of activities honoring our mothers and surrogate mothers. It's a very special event, of course, on the Brownhill Hard Courts. There was a gospel concert with Sister Bridget Broucher out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We will review some of these activities, and we're going to have a different kind of night tonight. I'm inviting those persons, those candidates who hosted these events honoring our mothers to give us a call at the top of the show. But in studio, we've got Mr. Rohan Az. Lots to discuss tonight, so we'll take a break and then we'll be right back.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
And tonight, like every Monday night, your calls are welcomed. 469-1616, 469-1700. Rohan, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Manners, and good evening to the regular listeners of Your Voice with the NRP, and for those who are joining us for the first time, good evening as well. Let me say good evening to the constituents, the wonderful people of Nevis 3, that is Gingerland, St. George. Of course, Manners, we had an eventful weekend. Of course, you spoke about the drive-through and the gospel concert, but it's good to be back on Your Voice. It's been a while. Of course, there were some scheduling conflicts that didn't permit me to be here, but it's good to be back and to be in the company of our listening public.
And I hope you had well, not you had, but of course that you took care of the ladies on Mother's Day.
Well, I do my best. The wife had a partially rest day. Of course, we have some children who not too bothered with the concept of Mother's Day. Still want to be under mommy and still want to be calling mommy for this and that. But be that as it may, it was a good day, and we continue to look at ways to champion the cause of the most vulnerable in our society, and women being among that group, women, young people, the elderly. And on the back of Mother's Day, we continue to advocate for things that are going to make the development of women and young people in our society so much better. Of course, we understand that they are facing quite a bit of challenge in this current era. The pandemic hasn't done much for that. The mismanagement of our economy hasn't done much for their development. But we want to say, as you have been saying, that there is hope yet on the horizon, and the NRP administration is ready to chart the way forward with new plans and policies that are going to allow our young people and our mothers and our single parent homes and our disadvantaged homes and our families that are struggling an opportunity to survive in the current era in which they are in, and not just to survive, Mr. Manners, but to be able to have that sustained prosperity, that generational wealth, that opportunity that is going to set up their children and their grandchildren well down the line. And that has been my message consistently, and that will continue to be my message, and that is something that I am willing to push forward and to place on the table with my other colleagues, that we must understand fundamentally that in order for our communities and our families and our island to develop and to move forward, then our women must be taken care of in a manner that allows them to live comfortably. And when we say comfortably, man, as I'm talking about being able to save some money, being able to take care of their responsibilities, not having to sit and wonder which utility is going to have to suffer this time around, and not having to wonder while in the supermarket if they have enough to buy the necessities, and being able to have some fun in their living, to take vacation, to spend quality time with their children, and not having to work two and three jobs, because as a government we would have placed the policies and the plans on the table, put them into practice, into action, that allows our women and our young people to survive. I believe wholeheartedly that the pie is big enough if we manage our resources properly, if we provide meaningful and purpose-driven opportunities, and if we look at the development of our country in a manner that says that as individuals you may not necessarily get everything you want, but we should be able to provide enough of what you want that gives you that comfort in living. We are familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and there are certain needs that humans we want to fulfill naturally, because that is the human inclination. We bring nothing into this world, man. We will take nothing out. But in between those two extremes is the experience of life, and that is why we vote. We vote because we believe that if we give certain people the opportunity to lead and to put things into place, that we can live meaningful lives. And we have not seen that in recent times. And I want to charge our people that is still available. That opportunity still exists. And this current NRP is ready, set and willing with that level of empathy and humanity that understands the struggle of ordinary people. We are ready to get to work.
Now, Rohan, I think things as they're unfolding on the ground dictate that we have a different kind of show tonight. So as I indicated earlier, the NRP had some wonderful activities across the length and breadth of the country. I know over in St. Thomas's, Cleone, through her Lowlands Community Foundation, had a pre-Mother's Day dinner for some mothers in that constituency. I know earlier today, J.D. Keynes posted a number of persons, females all I think, who benefited from vouchers, helping to ease the squeeze and going towards their neglect bills. And of course, the mega event, of course, on the Brown Hill Hard Court, where evangelist Bridget informed us that I'm still here.
Yes.
She really turned the place up, not to mention the local artist in Devon Cornelius, Vinal Powell, who did 3 songs, 2 of which were her own creation and done specifically for Mother's Day. And of course, there was Renford Dorr. Jesus is the carpenter. It was a wonderful evening and a very good turnout. And as I said, I would like to hear from those persons who were architect of those events at the top. I'm one who don't believe you should do good things and hide them under a bushel. So we'll give you a few minutes at the top. Give us a call. Tell us about your activities. I don't believe honoring our mothers should end at midnight on Mother's Day. It should extend throughout the year. So we await calls if you're available. I know you've got meetings and constituency events, etc., but we'd be honored to give you a call. And also, we want to look at some macro issues, Rohan. Of course, we'll deal with the constituency, but we are in a wider federation. And the way how things have been unfolding or not unfolding puts us in a very precarious position. And sadly, our leadership has been mute. 11 days after the Premier cancelled his press conference in deference to the late Premier Van Samwe, we haven't heard a rescheduled date. Clearly, he has not much to say. It reminds me of a Bob Marley song, Running Away. The people of Nevis wants to hear from our leadership, because this is where we are, Rohan, in the Federation. On April 25th, a motion of no confidence was moved by the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Sean Richards, and served on the office of the Speaker of the National Assembly. On the 27th, he indicated that he needed legal advice, and he did this by way of letter, to ensure that the motion of no confidence meets the stipulated requirements of both the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis and the standing orders of the National Assembly. Actually, today is day 15th. Based on legislation which was passed in the National Assembly in 2019, it dictates that a motion of no confidence must be heard within 21 days. It is my understanding that when it was served, the Speaker was off island. I understand he is back, and I really thought on this, the first day of the week, that we would hear from him. Well, the clock is ticking. We have 6 days to go. And here is what the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Timothy Harris, said on January 5th, 2019, at a time when his government, unity government, brought new legislation. Of course, we know that in 2012, there was a motion of no confidence against the Douglas administration for all of 26 months. And the unity claimed that they were going to fix that. And here's what the Prime Minister said on January 5th, 2019, in an Observer article. Motion of no confidence should be a matter of urgency and given priority. We will legislate in a reasonable time for debating and voting on a motion of no confidence. No parliament should be held hostage to the dictates of a creeping dictatorship prior to February 15th. But here we are again, déjà vu, and it seems as if they're dancing around the motion of no confidence. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, interesting days yet, Mr. Manners, for St. Kitts and Nevis. I know you noticed you said we are day 15, and so numbers serves correct, then we have 6 days. You know, one of the things I've struggled with, and I think people, let me not say I think people, observing the social media and being a part of conversation, is that we are sorely lacking in the information department. We don't have enough, or people don't have enough of what is relevant to what is happening, the information that guides informed decision and informed conversation. We don't have that, because we are at a situation now where you're seeing we have 6 days to complete the 21 day that is given in the Constitution. But what is missing from me, Mr. Manners, is that has the motion of no confidence been accepted by the Speaker?
Well, it was lodged with the office of the Prime Minister.
Right, and then he's saying that he's seeking
contrasting debates, he's seeking legal advice. And so there are some people who are asking, when does the clock begin to tick?
Right, exactly.
Is it at the time that he gets that legal advice? And with all the legal advice available around this world, 15 days is a very long stretch, which makes me think there are shenanigans at play. But at least, as you said, information should be offered. The Speaker should be telling us whether he has not yet sought that information and he needs an additional 3 days. And the interesting thing about it is that the Speaker of the National Assembly is a CCM, a past candidate of the Concerned Citizens Movement. The CCM has this uncanny knack of bringing us in undesirable places. 1993, for instance, and again in 2022. We're in a bad place.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're right in that the Speaker, as I said, the information should, because people need to know at what point does 21 days begin in terms of the allocated time frame. For me, Mr. Manners, I feel that it is unnecessary to continue to dance around and beat around the bush. A motion has been filed. I know we have seen conversations where people say you can't bring a motion against yourself, and maybe that is part and parcel of the discussion, and that the members should resign to make the motion effective. The basic principles of the tenant is that, you know, people, the elected members are saying they don't support X, Y, Z, and they've brought a motion against the individual. One of the things that I found, you know, Mr. Manners, is that we seek to not accept the integrity of office, in a sense that the office isn't the individual. The office in itself is bigger than the person. And so when we operate in this kind of way, we must remember that when we talk about the office of the Prime Minister or the office of the Premier, it goes beyond you, the person. At the end of the day, that particular position or that particular space must never be brought into disrepute. It will never be a position that people say, well, you know, or operate like there's no respect, or there's a scourge on it, or anything along that line. And so, you know, if we talk about being, you know, above the fray, and as you rightfully alluded to, the position that was taken by the unity, that should not come back against you. Having made those statements and being in that position, one would expect that, okay, you filed the motion. I mean, you can either hear it or call the Governor General and dissolve the House and go back to the people. Ultimately, from where I sit, the people will have to decide again very shortly which political party or parties, because the way I see it is that there is going to be a unity of some sort governing the beautiful islands of St. Kitts and Nevis very shortly. So we really ought to not put our federation in a position where we are saying, you know, Party X said this, Party Y said they were going to change it, and now Party Y is in the same position. It really doesn't reflect well regionally and internationally. I know recently we've had that comparison with the British Virgin Islands, so in very short order, not only tabled but passed a motion of no confidence in an individual, ensuring that the integrity of the office remained intact. And so for me, that is where we ought to be looking to ensure that that office, which can be held by anybody, has the same integrity no matter who's sitting in the chair.
Well, as I said at the top of the show, it's a very unseemly, very untenable position for Nevis, because we are suffering at the federal level, but we have also been stuck at the local level, because we were looking towards 2022 with anxiety and with hope, hoping that things would be happening on the ground here. Shelley often says, nobody can doubt that anything keeping. There's no momentum on Nevis, absolutely no momentum. In fact, since you were last here, the Premier addressed the nation and addressed the world and basically put up the white flag of surrender, saying that he had lost his way. Now, we can reflect to 22 months back, for instance, June, end of May 2020, when we were facing a federal election, and I could see in my mind's eye two candidates on the CCM stage, Minister Alexis Jeffers and Minister Evelyn, both arguing about pay. One saying to the other, Eric, I don't know about you, but me working for free. These are supposed to be servants of the people. And 22 months after, they have come back, put their hands up and said, we have failed. Guys who are being paid twice by the constituents. Did you think we'll get to that, especially as regards the man up in Gingerland, the Honorable Eric Evelyn?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the statement well. What struck for me is that he said that for some of us who are unemployed, after the election we will remain unemployed.
I remember that.
And this is, as you see, rightfully said, comes from an individual who asked the people to allow me to serve you. And the problem I've had is that we politic and we forget that we have to govern. And we seem to be only concerned about politicking. And let me get there, and when I get there, I have 5 years, well, 4.5 years to do nothing, and then in the last year we try to do one or two things here and make it look as if we've been working all the time, and maybe that would work and people would vote for us again. When I ask the people of Gingerland for the opportunity to serve, it is just that, a position based on servant leadership. And understanding that my work or my task is to ensure that the trust that has been reposed is reflected positively, and that I am understanding what the challenges are of the constituents, and that I am looking at ways and means of putting in place the best programs and policies to alleviate those problems, and to grant opportunities that are going to allow the people to live meaningful lives. And where, Mr. Manners, that I find myself in a position where I don't have all the answers, which I don't, it is incumbent on me to find a cadre of individuals who understand what my policy direction is, and they have the ability, the technical ability or that human ability to transform what my thoughts and ideas are into policy, and so that people can benefit. At the end of the day, whether you vote for me or not, that is irrelevant. You live in a constituency that I am serving, and you ought to benefit, and you should benefit, and you should benefit to the point that at the end of the day you can say, "Why I didn't vote for IELTS, But IELTS program and policies were so far-reaching, and it was never a case of who you vote for, but it was always a case of how do I survive under his leadership. And that is what I want, simply, that at the end of the day people can say that I have served well, I have served all in the best possible way that I could. I am not misguided or have any misconceptions about how it works. You're not going to get everybody what they want. The governance model never speaks about that either. It says that you must be able to give everybody some of what they want. At least, and we can talk about housing option. Housing is an option, man. And everybody may not want a big house and a big yard. The policy or the good governance calls that you must be able to give a certain benchmark. So you may say, I want a 5-bedroom house with a nice backyard and a nice front yard. But that isn't possible. But I can give you a house that is comfortable enough that you can say, well, I have this, and should I need to make any additions or expansions, I can do that on my own. And that is where I want my kind of representation to take Gingerland, that the people can benefit at a level that is comfortable to them. Not to say that, whether you vote for me or not, at the end of the day, if you're unemployed, you're going to remain unemployed. Then what is the purpose of asking people to vote for you. And that has been, that has stuck with me. What I have found is that, they say they're not working for free, but we have really given a lot of free money.
What I find ironic about it is that the last election was held during a pandemic, in the heart of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And while these guys were making those mouthings, there were hundreds of mothers across the country who had lost their jobs. The NRP was seeking ways to reach out to them. And in their own words, to use their own words, they were busy with their snouts in the trough, mm-hmm. and not serving in the manner in which it is expected of them, while carrying the mantra that people matter more. And again this weekend, of course, a demonstration by the NRP of their compassion, especially for women folk who have been so hard hit over these last 2 years.
Mr. Manners, I've said this and I'll keep saying it until people understand where this island administration failed to grant the most vulnerable among us, which includes women, female-headed homes, single-parent homes. In the heart of the pandemic, one of the things that I came across that stuck with me was a basic instruction to countries around the world. And of course we understand the dynamics of the relationship St. Kitts and Nevis has as a government, even though certain things may come from a federal level. Nevis still has the autonomy to do what they desire. And one of the things that was said is that government should seek to give families liquidity. And it wasn't just a case of just because of the pandemic, but it was two-pronged really. It allowed families, struggling families, who were struggling prior to the pandemic, because the pandemic was not just a health burden, a mental burden, it was a financial burden. And it was simply to give people that level of comfort, that customary feel of being able to, at least at the bare minimum, pay something on your bills and go to the supermarket and be able to buy your own groceries. So mentally you were not all that out of whack, if you understand what I'm saying. And two, it was setting up the economy to recover when the pandemic had lost its tongue. We saw that regionally in Barbados and Jamaica and Windward Islands. In St. Kitts and Nevis we did that. The Prime Minister gave those stimulus checks of $1,000. And I said before, and I said, this was a golden opportunity for this administration. On one hand, federally, the people were benefiting. And had this administration been managing the affairs of the island's economy and been in a stronger position, I remember vividly when Four Seasons was at its height after its renovation, and service charge after service charge was booming and people were taking home good bits of money. The island's leaders said that they ought to save for a rainy day. The clouds opened and it poured on Nevis during that pandemic era. But there was nothing saved by this administration. So that on top of the 1,000 that the federal government was given, they couldn't even add $500. There was absolutely nothing to get. I have gone into the constituency and meet families, and we ask about how are they benefiting from the social safety nets. And it was disheartening to hear that some people were getting directly from the social safety nets in terms of the programs, and others were, specific people were saying, here is, and $150 a month. You were hearing single parent women with preteens, young children, some with babies, $150 a month. Mm-hmm. I have a 3-year-old who is going to demolish $150 in less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
We were not doing enough, and I have not seen that we have done enough to help single mothers, to help young women who have faced an enormous burden because of the pandemic and pre-pandemic, because let us not fool ourselves. The unemployment rate was high prior to the COVID era. The COVID era simply unmasked the realities of the struggles of ordinary people. And what the pandemic did as well, Mr. Manners, is that you watch people in your field because they have a certain type of job they're doing well. Well, this pandemic and doing house to house has really opened my eyes to the struggles our people are facing. People you suspect would be able to hold on and say, they can weather the storm because of what we assume is their economic standing, really struggling as well. And so it has been difficult to hear and to see, and we have done our best. One of the things my team charges me with, they say, well, as you don't like to take photos of things you do, and I've constantly said, humanity doesn't carry a camera. But we have done our best in granting food baskets and whatever assistance we can, because our people are having a difficult time at the moment. Yes, I will not be in fear and say that things haven't turned around for some people. It has. But when our government should have been in a position to grant more to our people, to give them an opportunity to live a little bit more comfortably, because it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all to survive in the height of the pandemic era. And now that it is, getting a little less in terms of its effect, the government has no economic policy, no economic plan, no recovery program, save and except to say, we need our fish.
But put on top of that the war in Ukraine. I haven't seen supermarket shelves this empty for a long time, in several weekends. Of course, there is soaring gasoline prices, inflation. So it speaks to the judgment, basically, of this administration. We should have been trying to climb out of the pandemic, trying to resuscitate our economy, get tourism again, and then very poor judgment, inflicting this pain on the people. And it's partly because they're insulated against that. They think that everybody is earning at their level, but yet they tell you people matter more. We're going to take a break and come right back.
But the economy is broken, the government stick. Can the opposition come and take a seat? The debt is high and employment's low, and it's the poor people taking the blow. I say we tired, we need a revolution. We just can't depend on vaccination. I say we tired, time to pick myself off the floor. Just remember people matter more. So when you hear them talking bull on the radio, people used to matter more. Whether you red, blue, orange or yellow, people used to matter more. But when they needed us for last election, we were always the first option. But now they in and they comfortable. People don't matter no more. Boy, some people may not like this, but people used to matter more. CCM them made a slogan out of it. People used to matter more.
And we're back. Our special guest tonight is Mr. Rowan Isles, competing for constituency number 3, Gingerland. But of course the issues have been conflated, and we're not sure whether we'll have a local election before a federal election. There are some people saying that we could be back at the polls by August or even July. Now, if you're out there and listening, as I know you are, you had fun at the concert on Sunday night, give us a call. It was such a timely intervention because Evangelist Bridget not only sang her heart out, but she also evangelized. She spoke to us as a people. And I know people really appreciated that intervention in a troubling time in our country's history. So give us a call, 469-1616, Rohan, what is being felt out there in the community? There's been a calm. We have said that the Premier has not been communicating. Everything is on hold in the Federation, but I know people must be talking. What are they telling you?
Well, as you rightfully said, even in the calm of the moment, the struggle doesn't go away, and so people continue to share their concerns. For me, it is heartening, Steve, that ever so often, every other week or every week, somebody new reaches out with stories of their struggles. And most recently, I've had the opportunity to hear from some young men in Nevis 3, and sometimes get the feeling that they are forgotten in all of this. Of course, we continue to push a message of the most vulnerable among us, and sometimes we feel they are not vulnerable. And you hear stories of how our young men are really trying. And what is happening for me in Nevis 3 Manors is that these are young men not looking for handouts. They're not asking for any money. They're simply asking for opportunities. Where can I find employment here? Or where can I find employment there? Or how can I benefit from any program that is there? One of the things that I found is that, they would ask me, they would ask the representative. Of course, he's better placed in terms of what government assistance is available. And, I have found that even in filling out the forms for those programs that grant some financial assistance, they have been waiting a while. They have been waiting a long while, even for an answer to say that whether the form was filled out incorrectly or it was filled out correctly. And it is difficult because, as they would say to me, they're on the streets, but they're not gang members, they're not affiliated with gangs, and they keep repeating that. And I understand why. And so, they are part of the struggling public as well. And so, as a candidate, I do my best to assist where I can in that regard, in giving direction as to where job opportunities are, wherever I find advertisements, I would share, and hopefully that would provide some level of employment. And what I found is that our people are really starved of information, Steve. Really, really starved of information. And, I've taken it for granted that I have access to information, or I know where to find information. And so I felt that most people should have the information. But in talking with these individuals, they really don't know that such things or certain programs exist. One chap asked about getting some assistance with a mechanic shop he wants to open, and I said, well, but there is a program, as far as I know, for women and young men under a certain age where you can get someone from the CEDA program. So he never knew about these things. And so we ought to do better in ensuring that there is an equal and equitable access to plans and programs that really ought to be designed or are designed to help people. Because if those who need the help most are not getting it, then the program is failing. And these young men feel that the program has failed, or there are certain programs that have failed, that the administration has failed in certain regards. And I guess sometimes because we assume certain things, and that would clarify as to why they often repeat that though they are off the street, they're not gang members. We have an attachment to that, of course, the peace program, and people feel that once you're on the street or you're off the street, then automatically you're a member of the peace program. And so I want to put a plug out there, if you're listening and you're close enough to the minister in the area, that there are young men who are desirous of your assistance, your wholesome assistance, with real purpose, with real intent, not just to get a vote, because these young men are young men with families. I know of one story, of course, among them, there's one they identify as their leader, and even in as much as getting some money just to go to see his child across the waters, it's difficult, and it tugs really at the heart, because you can see that they're simply trying to survive, and it is not happening. There are no jobs, and what I found is that this administration sorely lacks in creativity. There is no creativity in there, and they can't come up with the simplest and the most basic things to provide simple employment for people.
I know when you were last here, we discussed this issue, and there has been a persistent caller over those times. We know of the situation there at Market Shop, where the guys are selling going up Rollins Road. And she had outlined, the caller had outlined that the government could have extended a hand out to reach out to those folks on the Rollins Road, and that even something could be done with the public market, which is a stone throw away. Do you get a sense that Minister Evelyn, like his other colleagues in the federal government, have abandoned their post?
Yeah, definitely, and with that I believe that the constituents in the 5 districts ought to abandon these individuals. For the life of me, I can't understand why that public market has not had an intervention as yet. I really just can't understand it. And for me, it sends a clear message on 2 levels. One, that the historical value of the area has no merit to them in terms of when you talk to people in Gingerland, for sure they tell you Market Shop was the hub of activity. This is where the hustle and the bustle and all the activity took place. And you go to that area, and I've already envisioned what I would like to do there, and the space is available for that. That's one. 2, it says to the young men in the area that we're really not bothered about you if you're involved in agriculture and where you want to sell. I mean, find someplace else. However you get your produce sell, you get them sell. Nobody really cares too much about you and that. Because if you really had that kind of intent to provide opportunities for young men to get their products sold, you would have already had your renderings done and put out your tenders for bid and provided an opportunity for young people, for old people to sell their produce. And in Gingerland, Manners, there are quite a bit of young female entrepreneurs in the food industry. And there is where my idea in the market, that area, comes to life in my mind, where we can provide an area for economic boom there. Our young men, having done the labor in the farms, can journey to the Market Shop area, into the public market, into their stall, display their food, sell their food. And that the young men who are into pastry and into savory foods can do likewise. And there you see that correlation, because you can go down to the market and get your fresh produce.
There's a young girl at Maynard Ground. Her name eludes me at the moment. But she'd been winning competition after competition, and she operates out of her home. Not that anything is wrong with that, but you're absolutely right that Market Shop has been an eternal hub for the Gingerland area. It is the center. It is where east meets west, north meets south. It's a meeting point. And to have the market there all these years and nothing done speaks to a lack of creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a case of the minister abandoning his post. Because right across from the public market is the David Freeman Center of Excellence. That sits there for 12 months a year, being occupied probably 1 month of 12 months. During the pandemic, in the period where you had limited operations, one would have thought that we could have opened the booths there and allow food vendors that opportunity to sell from that central point. Because even though things are slow, that is still where main traffic flows. And so those food vendors, like you said, who are operating from their home, would have gotten a great opportunity for sales because they were now centralized. And the young men who had the agricultural produce could have set up a little stall in there. And people then knowing, okay, well, all of these things are in this area. people will be able to float here, get what they want. It's an opportunity for people to make some money. It's not a long-term solution, but at least in the interim, you provided opportunities for young people to make some money while you did some real work at the market. Neither of which happened. Neither of which happened, which clearly signals to the people, to me, that the minister is out of touch with what is happening in the constituency, which he serves on both levels, and that he really isn't too bothered with what the cries of our young people are in the constituency.
In 2020, we warned that if you adhered to the cry, all three for we, that the NIA would be subsumed in the federal government. So said, so done. We've hit a roadblock. We'll talk to you more when we come back, but we'll take a break. And remember, when we come back, we'd want to hear from you. There are issues out there impacting your little island. We're in dire straits. We'll take a break now.
I say we tired, Max say keep the momentum. Oh, Mr. Premier, where we get the energy from. I say we tired, time to protect the poor. Just remember, people matter more.
The last time I went is in Rice's.
And we're back. Sorry for that little interjection there. I'm having a little chat with Rohan. And Rohan, Hamlets Road project, I haven't been down there for a while, a housing project. We're hearing about housing projects in other areas. Any idea if that has started?
Well, the last time I've been there, I think it's in Rice's. They were
Rice's,
supposed to construct, what, nine homes?
Yep.
The last time I was there, it was...
Okay, hold your thought there. We've got our first caller for the evening. Good evening, caller. I think they're gone. We held on for too long. I'm sure you'll call back. Do give us a call. We want to hear from you. Go ahead, Rohan.
Yeah, the last time I was there, it was just bush and shrubs. I mean, it's...
I know they had cleared it at one point.
Yeah, they did clear it, and it's what you get after you clear it and you leave it. So, I haven't been in that particular area in a while, and so I can't say for certain that they haven't started yet, but the last time I was there, nothing was there. But, you know, man, as you're on housing, and one of the things we, as a party, have identified is that we need to provide varying options in our housing stock. And we of course recognize, you know, the current production of houses are set for middle income. I think we must recognize we have moved away from the so-called low-income homes. Those homes are now middle income. And even people who
caller is back. Hold your thought there. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, gentlemen.
Hi, good evening.
I'm calling from St. Kitts.
Oh, nice to have you.
Yeah, I have a question, and I wanna conclude when I think this sentence is finished. But if you see where you can answer me before conclusion, just answer. Now, I heard you speaking about the market over Gingerland.
Yes.
Right. Now, how long has that market hasn't been used?
It's difficult to put a timeline on it, but it's been many, many years.
Okay. Many mean more than one and more than two.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, what I would say to you, if that market could have reached down in St. Kitts here before 2015, they would have found, he had somebody down here would have found good use for that to sell it.
To sell the market?
Yeah.
Explain.
Because in St. Kitts, 1975, Mr. Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, he saw the need for people, small farmers and big farmers, to have a place to sell their products. And he constructed a building up in Newtown, Ponce Pasture. And the name of it is Central Marketing Corporation. So if you have a breadfruit tree in your yard and 2 banana trees, and you have one bunch of banana, and you pick maybe 50 breadfruit off a tree, you could have take them there to that marketplace and leave them, sell them wholesale, done with them, and you go on home, go deal with your other work.
Simaco.
Right. So therefore, that was a good use and a good help for everybody who has something to sell. Well, the building was sold. And now instead of food, it's gymming going on in the iron and exercise. And I know for sure. It's a bed, the only thing a dead does when they're dead is smile. Because all you could see is teeth. But I know Mr. Bradshaw is kicking in his grave when he realized what they did with that building there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is one of the reasons why a lot of people had to resort to go on the sidewalk and sell food. You know, it is wrong, but they had no other choice but to go there. And some of them was running from the market because the market roof had need fixing. Well, the roof has been fixed since 2015. This government, the federal government, is in office to fix the roof. And they do all that they can to accommodate the people them. But you know, some people will be stubborn, and for political reasons, which is not valuable, they will refuse to go in the market. So, saying this to say this now, sorry that you can't bring down the market down here.
We want it in Gingerland. You were the bread basket of the Federation.
Go ahead.
Caller.
Yeah.
Can I engage you on another matter? I know you're a very popular caller on the talk show circuit.
Right, okay.
We spoke earlier about the motion of no confidence, where in day 15 we still haven't heard from the Speaker of the National Assembly. What do you make of the events which are unfolding in our federation?
Well, I'm going to show you this now, brother. Knowing who the Speaker is, and I know how he performs his duty, if the application concerning the motion of no confidence, if it was done the correct way, that wouldn't take no long time for he to respond. But it hasn't been done the correct way.
How do you know that?
Because they summons themselves.
Policing themselves.
Summons
themselves.
Yeah. You can be in a house with your mother and your father and your brother them, and the mother, whatsoever the mother cook, everybody cook and they eat and they say it's nice. But because you want more food than your father and your mother, you want to say you don't have no confidence in your mother cooking and your father in the thinging. And so you're gonna go out and complain to your neighbor them and tell them you're gonna confident, but you're still eating the food.
So where will all this end?
Where will it end? It will end according to the law. The law. And you know, when you go join an insurance, when you take out a policy, all the noise things them written in big letters. But the one that you're supposed to be paying more attention to is very fine.
Fine print.
Yes, so therefore if you don't use your microscopic lens, you would realize that down there is where you need to check on. But how could anyone file a motion against themselves?
So you think this motion is self-serving? It's all about themselves?
More than that, I can tell you two of the main things that I know is after. The motion, they want the motion to come through so that one of them could get their hand on all the money. And the other one could get more power than Skelec or Nevlec can distribute.
But they tell us people matter more.
Look, talk is cheap, but action costs money. See me, hear me and come near me is three different me.
You're such an
I don't care who it is. Wrong is wrong. The law is the law. If you cannot respect the law, well, me and you going to fall out. When I say fall out, I don't like your attitude and I'm not going to hold a conversation with you. Because you're disrespecting the law. And that means you don't care whether somebody come and beat me up, do me this. You don't care what happened because you disrespect the law. And as far as you're concerned, the law could go out in the sea and drown. But I'm going to quote something I'll say something here from the Bible now. Now, he who knows better and misleading the one less than he, who do not know as much as he, is like what the Bible says. It is easier and better for a millstone be hung around your neck and carry in the deepest part of the ocean and throw you over with that than to offend a young one. and doesn't naturally mean all young in age, young in experience, and young in knowledge. Because you know more than me. You are more senior than me, and I supposed to learn from you. But if you don't come on and mislead me, and once you mislead me, then you offend me. You offend my intelligence. So therefore, you need a big stone to throw on. You know, can throw you in the bottom of the ocean, and you got people who know better, been to all kind of university. They went to this university, stupid university, street university, and they're misleading people, and they know better. They should not do it. Should not, man. If you can't teach somebody something to make them advance in life better than today or yesterday, you don't deserve to open your mouth. Shut up your mouth and go sleep.
Okay, final question. 15 days gone, 6 more to go to 21. What do you expect to happen this week?
You mean when the summons itself, things supposed to take place?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, those in authority who know what to do the correct way, according to the Constitution, and they follow the Constitution, we will see what happens. But I am gonna tell you this: all of them, they who kicking up and say the filing motion of no confidence against the Prime Minister. Wait there and wait for us. We ready for them. We ready for them. Ready? Are you come on, man? Why they running from election? Why is it they running if you ain't do nothing bad? Why you run when you see your police coming on the road?
The voice of the people is the voice of God.
Ah, you said it.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Okay,
you're such an engaging caller.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Some very interesting thoughts there, Rohan.
Yeah, very much so.
I think we've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Hi, good evening. We're well.
Okay. On the heels of what the gentleman just called and said, I just felt like I should just as a matter of public concern.
Uh-huh.
I felt like just chiming in on the subject of the filing of the monk.
Mm-hmm.
We take a little bit to explain from the position that I'm trying to make a clarification on. Now, the Constitution states, and work with me for a minute.
Oh, sure.
The Constitution states that the government is the Prime Minister's government, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the Constitution also states that any parliamentarian can bring a monk, M-O-N-C,
Mm-hmm.
against a sitting government. In our case, we have 11 of them. And they get their powers from the people. People send them there, the people employ them, they go and ask for a job. They sit in the parliament, and the Constitution states that any one of them can bring a monk. It is also a fact that it takes a majority of them to make up the government, the Prime Minister's government, which I said the Constitution states is the Prime Minister's government. They serve at his behest, they serve at his pleasure. All ministries belong to the Prime Minister. Those are the facts. He can take them away, and he can dispense with them or look into them at any point. It's his ministry. He gets his power by way of this fixed majority, parliamentarians that is, who gives him who asks the governor, tells the governor general, advises the governor general that he is the selected person to lead, and he gives him, the governor general gives him the instrument. No. Those 11 who get their powers from the people, and the Constitution states can bring a monk at any time, any one of them. So they float, the majority of them, 6 at a minimum, float in and out of the executive. We have a 3-branch government. The executive, the parliament, which is the legislative, the executive, legislative, and also the
judiciary.
Mm-hmm. 3 branches of government, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Those 11 members never stop being representative of the people and work for the people direct, as opposed to the rest. The other 2 branches, they're sent. Those are the only ones who are sent by the people. Now, like I said, their first job is to be in Parliament. Their secondary job, if selected from time to time, is to work at the behest of the Prime Minister. Now, the people, of course, is of a higher power than the Prime Minister. And the people is who send them, they ask for a job for. So this notion of you cannot bring a motion of no confidence against yourself is nonsense. Utter nonsense. The Constitution allows any minister to do it. Mind you, again, they served at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. They are like what we call per diem workers, so you can hire a person just to do a job and fire them at any point. But with the people, only the people can fire them. From the Parliament, the legislature. That's their real job. Their job, so to speak. They are not answerable to the people from an executive standpoint. They're answerable to the Prime Minister in Cabinet. So it's total nonsense. Tortora, for example, brought one. I think it was the Deputy Premier brought one against his own administration the other day. It's nonsense. But it's gone, a narrative has been floated around here, and people don't really read the Constitution and understand it. I ask people to look into it. The only reason I call him because I hate to see the narrative floats around here and people are led without proper information. Thank you.
Well, don't go yet, please, caller. Are you still there? Yes, we're so happy to have your wise counsel. So why do you think the Speaker of the National Assembly, after 15 days, have not indicated that he's got...
It's never been done in our history, in our 39-year history of our Constitution, that monk has been brought from within the sitting government, the executive body. But also remember, executive, like I've said before, we both have. So sometimes they're in the Parliament, they're on the river and on the bank sort of thing. But their first allegiance is to the people. We send them there. Thousands of people send them from each constituency who give them a job. And so it is never been done. It's always come from across the opposition branch. So they're not accustomed. So nobody has ever really perused the matter in terms of the Constitution and the letter of the Constitution.
Where will this all end?
It's sort of different from what we've seen in the past.
Where will this all end?
Well, I mean, I think that the Speaker would have to address it. I mean, I recognize. I looked at the filing by Mr. Richards, and I read it. And as some may say, part of it is erroneous. It doesn't even matter if it's erroneous; it makes no sense. It has to be debated. A minister has the right. The Speaker, for example, doesn't have the right to determine whether or not any of the 11, let's say, the validity of the monk. I mean, once he places a monk and he says he's in disagreement with this, it has to be debated on the floor. It doesn't matter the language. When I say the language, the erroneousness of the language. I mean, of course, within context, right? But I'm saying what really matters is that the Constitution states that any one of them can bring it, and it has to be heard. It just has to be.
So I'm asking you again. By my count, 21 days elapse next Monday. Are we going to have some action there?
I suspect we will have some action within the next few days. I suspect that he will have to return with his ruling it in a few days or so. And then, the debate will begin as it relates to up and down vote within the amongst the 11 members. That has to happen, constitutionally.
We'll wait and see.
If he comes back, for example, and he says, well, it's not fired properly, no, it gives the litigant or the proponent of the monk a chance to go to the court. I guess I would suspect that would be the judiciary at this point to determine or to interpret the rules and the Constitution.
Now Rohan here has said that the people rank and file across the country are very uneasy. Are we going to be in legal limbo for a long time?
That can be quite interesting. And like I said, how it depends on how it comes back, and you say, oh, it's not, and it's trying to buy time or play for time, what have you. The Constitution then would have to go into an interpretation area of interpretation where the judiciary would have to come in at some point, where the highest level of court that we can take this. But if it comes back and say, well, they tries to tie up the time, and all that sort of thing. But something would have to be heard within the next few days regarding this matter. Constitution pretty much speaks directly to it. There's no equivocating about it. I mean, yes, you can, buy for time, but how much time? It has to be spoken to.
Well, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
are here with bated breath, in fact. Very interesting discussion here, Rohan. Of course, a counter view, but we've got another caller on the line. No, the caller slipped away. But this is what debate is about. All views contend.
Yeah, I mean,
Our caller is back now. Good evening, caller. You're on Your Voice with the NRP.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, what I want to know, the injunction what they file against the self, what they file against the self, do you think that is valued or is not valued?
Well, we're not legal minds here, and so we're hearing from the public. What's your view on it?
Well, I want to know if these 6 people want to take over the government and run the government, and 3 of them is brilliant lawyers as they claim to be, with a lot of advice, and they couldn't file a paper properly. What they will do with the country?
What we as Divisions find... Go ahead, caller.
I'd like to know, if you have any idea. I am not up there to hear some of the thing. It just happened, so I was waiting for my favorite show, but it's off tonight because they are taking care of some other business.
Well, turn your allegiance to this show. This one is one of the highest ranking shows. It's relatively new in the Federation.
I came this the first time I called in onto the show. I tried to stay out the collision over there. So I stay out because, I don't want nobody to tell me live in Nevis and stay out of Nevis business.
But we're still a federation.
Well, I know that. I remember not, God bless his soul. I remember when Van stand up on the pier and say he ain't going down there. And then when Vance and you premier now join up together, the break them they come down, but he had other intention. The intention was to join the treasury. I take the treasury to Charlestown, and maybe he had some other place he was going to put the treasury. So
don't you believe in fair share?
Well, I don't know what to call fair share, Fair share is a positive word with some negative effect to it. You understand me? I can't have 20 people live in my house, and you got 5 people living in your one, and you're looking for the same amount of money.
No, it's not the same. It's what's called pro rata, based on the population.
Pro rata, it still come by down to what I just tell you, because Sink is having more people and what Nevis having.
Yeah, but the premier has always said, to his credit, that he's aware that St. Kitts has a bigger population, about 3 times the size.
Well, when he realized that?
He's always said that to his benefit.
Yeah, but could I tell you something?
Oh, sure.
Yes, they have a bigger population in St. Kitts. But I say about 75 to 55% are in region down here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking it from down here and then up in Nevis, what are they going to do? No.
But the premier is responsible for the governance of Nevis. We know we've got plenty cousins and uncles and sisters over there, but he is concerned about those who reside here on Nevis.
Yeah, but the federal government are paying the police, they're paying the fire department, they're paying the nurses.
Not the nurses.
They're paying a lot of different things over there. The prep and the step and all that is the government, the national federal government paying them.
And that's why I think there should be dialogue. And, very interestingly...
Going in the house.
Well, in the cabinet.
In cabinet, yeah.
Yeah. There should be dialogue, and that's one of the things said in the Charlestown Accord. There should be consultation rather than confrontation.
Right. And they don't go in the house. And they're on a plane everywhere going somewhere. where people will, from St. Kitts and Nevis, will never share enough money to go in their life. You understand me?
Yeah.
So when they're going on this China agreement with some of those countries, nobody from St. Kitts will never go there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's not half as better as St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I don't understand it. I really don't understand.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure it will come to a head soon.
It will be to an end by Monday.
Yeah.
And I hope they prepare themselves, because not a damn seat for them. Not a seat for them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them who come out in there, no seat for them.
Mm.
And this is King Rockefeller from St. Kitts.
We recognize your voice, the famous Calypsonian. Thank you so much for calling.
They need to stay in the lane.
Stay in the lane. Your popular song. They're not listening. Your popular song. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay then. You know, one of the interesting things I've found in all of this, at least the People's Action Movement, they held a series of town hall meetings, I think 4, before the period of mourning. The leadership in Nevis has not come to the people of Nevis. And the only avenue, well, 2 avenues, of course, there's the Wednesday night show. We've got another caller. It's a busy evening. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Mr. Manas, good night.
Hi, good night, Montserrat. How are you?
Not too bad at all.
From where you sit, what do you make of the events in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Well, me go say, but me need to say good night to Mr. Isles.
Yep,
Mr. Isles first. Good night, Mr. Isles.
Good night, my friend.
And then me need to shout up my comrade leader and the others and tell them belated Mother's Day.
They had a great time. They had some great events.
All right. Then, after coming behind, me need to stand on my lane.
You don't need to, man. This is a wide-ranging discussion we're having here.
Okay, so...
Talk your piece.
No, let me say this here first. Nothing wrong with the motion. The motion file, alright.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
It so happen that we even think that the talk show hosts them, they should be more informed. That when people call in and say this and say this, they can put them on their truck.
Mm-hmm.
But because they not put them on their truck, somebody says something, it sound good, then no correction, and then it just continue getting out of order. The motion is not one motion that file against no government, against self. People need to cut out them kind of talking there.
Mm-hmm.
The motion file for leadership. That's what the motion file for. They not got no more confidence in the leader, not the government. You get that?
Yeah. So are you saying that the Governor General, who was one of the framers of our Constitution in 1983, and the youngest Attorney General we have ever had, I think at age 28, 29, are you saying he erred?
No, well, remember now, changing of leadership, a changing of plenty other things. Even the Governor General job now gone to. If the new leader no want it. You get that?
I'm hearing you.
Exactly. So I want Stalin. But the truth about it, you know, when you're on the draft board, the man we offer the draft board see more players, right?
You're seeing a lot from Montserrat, are you?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And me tell you the fair truth. If the Prime Minister, listen to me, for the time the wrangling start, this would have done, you know, because me personally to go to the Governor General
dissolve the house
and resign the position and make Premier Brantley and Sean let them take over the country.
But you know, politicians in the Caribbean don't give up leadership that easy.
Yeah, well, this one may try to say everybody see things different. Okay? Me not gonna say what me see yet. But after everything done, me go come back. So the whole this compromise. They go come back and they go tell you the reason why me would give up that position. Alright?
Now, before you go, one more thing. The British Virgin Islands, they brought a motion of no confidence, I think Deputy Premier or Chief Minister Wheatley, and within 1 day it was dispensed with. Are there any lessons to be learned from the BVI?
Well, that's one different case.
A different case?
Yeah, that's one completely different case. That's one case of the leader, even from foreign side, where he don't even the forum thing. And remember now, the British want to take over the country. Then join one national unity now to save the British rule.
Yes.
You can say I'm a completely different case to this one here. But let me say this and then me go now. What happened now with the last question that you may ask the Rockefeller?
Where and I think it was,
the Charlestown card.
Yeah,
You see, the Charlestown card, that's no government document, my friend. That's one something that, just like you make one resolution to you even own self, and you say, well, for the year, I may go do this, I may go do this, I may go do this here. But then, you now use own resolution. There is no hole in enough foot on a fire in a Charlestown card. Charlestown card is supposed to take from where they got their card right now to the federal government, to the cabinet, to parliament, and pass all them agreement that you got in the account there. It passed in the parliament. And even if it passed on the parliament, remember, you're not done the still, you know. Remember, you have to sign off by the Governor General still.
Gazetted.
You get exactly, you have to get it right. So, this all makes me to done resigned. What Brantley and Sean, they asked on the Charlestown card. Look, me to give them, because me know what they ask for. The people, after they get the position, the people will see different. But at the same time, as we tell you, the Prime Minister one genius.
He's a what?
A genius.
A genius, the man a genius.
Why do you say that?
By the man brilliant. Right? And the truth about it, you see, to the end now, if I mean me now, this not the played out, but you hear a chance to the end. You hear a chance to the end. This is an essence. One thing for sure, Timothy won't be the Prime Minister. So he no care if the country think on that. As long as Timothy not the Prime Minister, he feel good about that day. That's one blunder.
Sound like a personal vendetta.
Exactly. I mean, there is certain things that you keep to yourself. And there is certain things that you say. And there is certain things that you say. Now certain places and you say this is not this corner and it sound good. Nobody can not other corner, other corner they not accepted. You see?
Yep.
Anyway, be good and minority one federation, but please concentrate on the island.
We will.
Yes.
Right. And answer me a question, may go hang up now. Since all this wrangling, you see any improvement on Mavis?
Country on hold. We said that at the top of the show. We've been neutralized for the last 5 months. As a young lady here likes to say, not a kip.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We always welcome your your views from your vantage point in the Emerald Isle. We've got another caller. Good evening, caller. You're on Your Voice with the NRP.
Good evening to the panel.
Hi, good evening.
Mr. Manners.
Hi.
I just started to listen. I think I listened when Mr. Politics the other brother was talking from Think It just before rap. Anyway, what I noticed, and that's why we as the supporters have to listen the candidate well, have to listen the ministers, and the ministers should report back to the electorate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these same brothers was cussing NRP when Unity Farm. They all was fighting, and Mark was the best thing for Think It Nevis. He was everything. But Mark went to Think It, so he was going to go for Think It money. For Nevis money. He went for Nevis share.
Mm-hmm.
They signed something in Charlestown, which is valid. You don't need no constitution for that, because it was between men and men. This is what we're going to do when we get in government. Nevis is going to get whatever, Think It is going to get whatever, and that was justified. That not to go in the constitution. Later on, they could have put it in constitution, just in case government change, it stays there for Nevis, and that's something they would achieve. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you listen to these people now. Elimat had the same concept. When Sim Daniel was the Minister of Finance, Elimat make a record, and he says, Sim Daniel Ban got Think It sugar money.
I remember that well. I just read his autobiography.
Okay, good. So you know that is the concept of the petition, and that's why I'm disappointed with Mark, and I told him that. Number one, Mark says he's going for the money. Number one. Number two, Mark Dan Think is to say he's going to support Sean as Prime Minister. Sean and Pam is who Sim Daniel run from. Forget about who want to make Prime Minister now. Mark have a post up now 40 years ago when they bounced Think His check. It wasn't Pam or Labour who bounced Think His check, Nevis check. It was Think It who bounced Nevis check. What Mark have to do at this time? Just so you hear Rock and them talking for the party and Think It, you hear Rock say 95% of the people in Think It are Nevis people. So that means the share that would have come to Nevis have to share among the people in Think It.
Caller, let me ask you a question here though. You seem to think that this should have been done on a shake hand. Maybe because in front of the title of people in our parliament is the word honorable. But now we're hearing shouts across the Narrows that the Prime Minister is a dishonorable man. Wouldn't it have been better if this had to be codified? I don't know that too many people around the world do business in a handshake. The guy, what's his name, DuPont, who comes by your place on a Saturday, every morning he talks about the number of people who have borrowed money from him, who have come to his shop and not paid back. In this world of politics, knowing the history of what has happened between St. Kitts and Nevis, shouldn't Van Samry, bless his soul, and the present Premier have been more wise?
Yes, they should have been, but they haven't reached to that area yet. All I'm saying is, it's an accord. I don't like the accord. I do not like it. We had an accord for, 4-season accord, that messed up. We had another Charleston accord, that messed up. And that's why I say disappointed in Mark. You understand all these accord happening, but they don't reach to that yet. All they reach to is, Pana, give me share.
Mm.
Do it for Nevis. We work together as a party.
That's kindergarten politics.
Yeah, but all of them say, no. You could call it what you wish. They said it, they agreed to it. For example, my name is Cabo. I hit your car and you don't know my other name to say, this is what this man is. But you know me as Cabo. You could sue me as Cabo. the court order could come out to Cabo.
Mm.
That's my known name. I am saying here, later they could have called it. They could put it in the Constitution.
Later? 7 years has elapsed.
Yeah.
7 years has elapsed.
Yes, but here the other part of it. Now, they should be looking for support from NRP because Sim Daniel did it well.
Harry did it well, and I believe Janice Daniel and the team will do it even better under these modern age, and they have proper support and proper advice. I am saying here, yes, Mark is a liar, Grant and so is the other brother is a liar, but who cares about Nevis? Who cares about Nevis? Vance Sammy didn't do it, and I don't want to talk about Vance now anyway. But anyway, Mark is there and he's saying, look guys, I want my fair share. I feel disenfranchised. You just be a peer, $100 and something million. I mean, the old road there, another set of $1 million. A main road, this $1 million. Well, come on, man. You don't think people jealous? We don't want to do something, and I'm not talking about Mark as to say he would have handled the money better. All I'm saying is he made a point and said fair share for Nevis. But now here is Sinkit team now coming up against hitting Mark, hitting Sinkit, hitting Nevis. No. Fair share is fair share. All I'm saying is go back to the poll. There's an election coming up. Vote for NRP, and I believe in my heart and heart NRP could do a much better job than CCM and the Vance has done and the Mark has ever be able to do.
Thanks.
I believe these girls deserve a chance, and that's where I think the vote should go. And then all this nonsense about coding would be over, because Janice is a no-nonsense girl, and she would code everything.
Thank you so much. We've got to leave it there. Rohan, we've got 2 minutes. It's been a very interesting night with multiple callers. You didn't get as much to say as I know you'd like, but you'll be back.
We'll be back. I mean, it's your voice with the NRP, and we continue to amplify the voice of our constituents. I just want to say, manners, that our intent, the NRP's intent, my colleagues, the powerful four, as I call them, our task is simple. It's to leave you better than we met you. And that is our aim, and that is our desire.
And the caller made a very important point. Janice cares.
Janice cares.
She has benefited from the wise counsel of her father. The present leadership seem to have learnt very little from the past leaders of our country, even from his party leader, the late Van Samry, Joseph Parry, and the man who he said he learnt at his footstool, first Premier of Nevis, the late Dr. Simeon Daniel. We're 1 minute to 10, so we're going to get out of here, and we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an exciting night with your voice, with the NRP and Rohan Isles. Good night.
Good night.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its